Hi there, this is Sheena Rodens and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for Hey Little Magpie, featuring the Pinkfresh Studio range Tourist mode. And this is the first time that I'll be cutting into this range, so I'm really looking forward to it. So I've picked the destination page as my background and I've cut some thick white cardstock to go over the top. And that's about just over 11 inches square. I'm going to use 3 Distress Oxides and I'm going to make a mixed media background. Now, as you can see, I've literally gone straight in with the ink pad itself. That's the Saltwater Taffy. I'm being brave. I'm not the best mixed media artist. We've got some real talent on the team with Julie Taylor, but I do like to have a go at times. The yellow I'm coming in with now is the Squeezed Lemonade. I will list these inks in the comments below, in the blurb, so you can, if you want to remember them. And this last one is Dried Marigold. I did try and match them up-ish with the colours in the range in advance. So I did put a bit of thought into which colours that I chose. I want it to be a little bit feathery at the ends of each of the stripes that I've created. The pink one I'm a little less happy with, but I think I'm going to try and come in. I'm left-handed and I'm doing a lot of this right-handed, so I'm swapping from one hand to the other, but that looks a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to bring in a water spray, and I'm actually off camera with it, but you can see that I'm trying to guide the water with my hands, and I'm just spraying it over the top. And I will then use the kitchen roll to soak some of that off. Just giving it a little bit of chance, because the oxides, they change and it actually changes their colour. So to make it a little bit patchier, I'm giving it a few seconds to work before I soak it up. It is normal cardstock, but it is thick, so it should be able to take the mixed media. I'm coming back in with the same colours, and I'm just going to add some water and add a few splats either end of these. Trying to still keep tone on tone. I do mix it up a tiny bit later on, but initially just going to add a few splats around the ends of these stripes. So as you can see, actually just using the ink pad itself and swiping it on the cardstock is not hard. And what you need to bear in mind is, and this is one of my mantras, is it's only a piece of cardstock. So what's the worst that can happen? I can change my mind if I don't like it. I can do it again if I don't like it. I can add more to it if I don't like it. And that's what I would say, and something I've learned from all the years of crafting that I've done, is actually just roll with it. Just breathe. Yeah, okay, you're thinking, what is she making at the moment? But this is just a background. I am going to cover a big percentage of it with other bits from this Pinkfresh Studio range. So, yeah, roll with it. Just see what you think. If you don't like it in the end, you could use another piece of pattern paper. You could just use some plain cardstock. You could use another technique, like the packaging technique. So I would just say it's, you know, I always like to challenge myself a little in scrapbooking. I've been doing it a long time, and you're always looking just to stretch yourself a little bit and do something different. So that is why I thought I'd come in and do this today. So I've let that dry, obviously, off camera. And now I'm going to start to actually build up the layout. I've got 3 photos from a recent trip to Croatia, and I think they go with the colours without being too matchy-matchy. The sunset at the bottom does go with the orange, and the roofs in the middle picture go. But at the top, there's not really any yellow in there, but there's no real harsh colours either. So I thought that was perfectly acceptable. So I'm going to build up 3 embellishment clusters, really, essentially, to go over the mixed media. So if you can imagine the mixed media as your base layer, and then I'm going to build up from there. I'm going to tend to use yellows-ish on the top and the pinky peaches in the next, and then oranges in the bottom, but I am going to mix it up a little. I don't want it to be too tone on tone. So I've got all the bits of the similar colourways in the tray on my left, and I really like this envelope from the journaling pieces. But I actually think it's too big as one of the bases, so I've cut it open. That way I can use the pattern from both sides. So I'm going to just leave that there while I have a think what I want to use. And I'm seeing if there's any bits and pieces that I've mixed. So when you've got that paper there as a 12 by 12 and a 6 by 6, it gives you a lot of option size wise. So I really like this opened journaling bits envelope. So I'm going to use a big chunk of it in the bottom cluster, and I'm going to use some of the other side, the plain side, in the middle cluster too. So I'm just trying to figure out how much I want to use, because I'd like the photo to actually overhang. But I'm very conscious I don't want to cover all the mixed media up as well, and I want all 3 clusters to be of a similar size. So all these things are running through my head while I'm having a good look at what's on offer in the range, in the colourways that I like. So that little tab there, that's been cut from one of the 12 by 12 papers, and I've just punched a hole to make it look more like a tag. But there's lots of pieces that are that pinky orange in this range, so I don't think I'm going to have a shortage of things that I want to use. I really like that stamp sticker. It says in the city. I'm actually going to use it as a base for another piece because I want to build up a few layers as I go, and that a change of scenery will be sitting on top of there. So that's the island of Hvar off Croatia that features there. Absolutely a lovely day spent there, so I definitely wanted that photograph to be included. The postcard that's tucked underneath there, that is where my journaling's going to go, so I've already earmarked that in my mind, that's the piece where the journaler is, so there won't be journaling on the top or the bottom cluster. So if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that the embellishment is my favourite part, so I will literally look at every single piece of paper and sticker and die cut in that tray to make sure that I'm not missing something that I later think that would have been perfect. So I'm looking to add a couple of tags and tuck them in behind the photograph at the bottom. And I've just brought in my guillotine, and I'm just going to trim down the journaling bits envelope just to make it the right size as the base for those clusters. I don't know if you've made a layout with clusters before, but I always find that I like one cluster more than the others. I think it's like siblings or children, but there's ones that seem to come together effortlessly, and then there's others that you really feel like you struggle with to make them the way you want them to look. And I find this, the top one, I'm avoiding it at the moment, but the top one is definitely the one that I struggle with the most. I don't know whether because there was less yellow in the range that was suitable or what, but for some reason I find it's always the way. So you saw me get the ruler out there. I just wanted to have an idea how big the base was for the top cluster. That is another journaling bits envelope. Just because I didn't want any of them to be overpowering, and as I say, I definitely want the mixed media to show. So I'm just starting to lay things out now the way that I initially think they should go. I know I'm not a fast scrapper, that's kind of part of who I am. It can take me a good afternoon, in fact I think this probably was a good afternoon of messing about to get this layout to come together. So I'm not very prolific, I don't make hundreds on a yearly basis, but I do try and really like everything that I make, if that makes sense. I don't challenge myself to make things by numbers, because I've tried that in the past, particularly when I first got into scrapbooking. I felt like I needed to get everything in the album and make as many as I could, and I used to keep lists and everything else, but it just didn't work for me. It's putting pressure on myself doesn't make me more creative, and that's something that I've found over time. So I'm just bringing in a couple of canvas flare there. There's a heart one in the centre, and there's one at the top, a yellow one, a larger one that says smile. They're both Hey Little Magpie's own flare, so they're really worth checking out in the shop. I do bring in a third a little later on, which is actually one of the shiny, like you'd expect a flare to look. And I do like both sorts, but I have to say the canvas one's kind of a real favourite of mine, and they are appearing on my layouts more and more. So mentioning Hey Little Magpie, I'm making this layout for them. I would really recommend you try out their store. They have got a huge range of all the current collections, plus a lot of things that they design and sell themselves. So do check them out. I would really recommend it. And if, like me, you really like the embellishments, this is a great range for that, because not only have they got the journaling bit, the envelopes, they've got chipboard stickers, the ephemera pack, they've got cardstock stickers, and they've also got some puffy stickers as well. And I haven't even looked at those so far. So as you can see, I'm just still thinking about getting things into place. In fact, sometimes the less you use, the more I fuss with it, if that makes sense. But that's just my style, really. So I brought in the puffy stickers. There's a couple there that I really like the look of. I'm going to cut them from the packaging with the background intact, the plastic backing. I do wish I could be more spontaneous and stick things down as I go, but I've found in the past that I end up pulling it back up again. So I leave the backings on. I've now brought in a punch or two, and I'm going to add some punched strips as well, one to each of the ephemera clusters. Don't use all of that top one. I'm just trying to figure out where it would go. I've cut a circle from one of the discarded offcuts there, and I've added a sun to it for the bottom for the sunset photo. I think that goes really nicely. And I'm also going to add a little bit of punch detail to the middle one as well. So off camera, I've sewn the background and the white cardstock together, having gutted the 12 by 12 first. It's a variegated thread. I've just ran around the cardstock a couple of times. It's not perfect, it's not meant to be, but it just adds another element of colour onto the white. I think there is quite enough of white space, but I think that colour just helps square it all up. Happy with the placement. I've stuck these bits together off camera, and I've added some foam from the children's department of a craft store to the back of each, so that it just raises it up a little. It's not very thick, it's not as thick as some of the foam pads I own, but it just gives you that little depth. So I'm going to try and get that one in the middle, and then get these either side so they overhang the inks. And now, do you think the inks look different when you look back at it? Yes, the yellow sticks out a little bit on the left maybe, but I think that the colours go so well with the papers that actually it's not as in your face, that it's not as fluffy at the edges as I would have liked, this sort of thing, because it is just another layer on the... well, see what you think when you see the final images. So these puffy hearts there, Hey Little Magpie's own, I'm just adding one there. So I'm quite happy with everything there. I've stuck it all down. I will do the journaling off camera, but I'm just giving it a wiggle so you can see the depth. Here's the finished image, and there's some close-ups too, so you can get some of the details. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up. Any comments you've got, leave at the bottom. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got. So thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you here again real soon. Bye for now.